Over the centuries, people have questioned the existence of God. In the modern world, we have people like Richard Dawkins saying, "The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction," in his book, The God Delusion. Or Daniel Dennett, who says, "The kindly God who lovingly fashioned each and every one of us and sprinkled the sky with shining stars for our delight, that God is, like Santa Claus, a myth of childhood, nothing a sane, undiluted adult could literally believe in." These ideas are not new by any means, and theologians, particularly those of Mother Church, have been responding to the likes ever since. So, if you hold or are considering holding similar views, here are some arguments for the existence of God. Mind you, these are sophisticated philosophical arguments, and I am a CS student. So, I'll explain to the best of my ability, but I just cannot do them justice. The first argument is the argument from contingency. St. Thomas Aquinas, a Dominican friar and theologian, one of the greatest theologians in Catholic history actually, formulated this argument. He argued that everything that exists is contingent, meaning it could potentially not exist. However, for something to exist, there must be a necessary being that exists independently of other things. Here's how Aquinas formulated it. In the world we find there are things that are possible to be and not to be, but it is impossible for these always to exist, for that which is possible not to be at some time is not. Therefore, if everything is possible not to be, then at one time there could have been nothing in existence. But if this were true, even now there will be nothing in existence, because that which does not exist begins to exist only through something already existing. Therefore, we cannot but postulate the existence of some being having of itself its own necessity and not receiving it from another, but rather causing in others their necessity. This all men speak of as God. Here's an example. A chair exists because of the carpenter who made it. It is also possible that the carpenter should have decided not to make it, and then it would not exist. Same applies to the carpenter. He exists because his parents reproduced. It could also have been possible that his parents decided not to reproduce, hence he would not exist. Same applies to his parents and their parents, and on and on. If this were to go on for infinity, then there would be no foundation for existence, for all that exists draws its existence from something already existing. Therefore, the logical conclusion would be that there is a first necessary principle which exists of itself and gives to others their necessity and existence. This necessary principle, we say, is God. The second argument is the ontological argument. St. Anselm of Canterbury, an Italian Benedictine monk, philosopher and theologian, formulated this argument. He argued that God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. Here's how Anselm formulated it. God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. Even the fool, when he hears of this being, understands what he has, and what he understands is in his understanding. And assuredly that than which nothing greater can be conceived cannot exist in the understanding alone. For suppose it exists in the understanding alone, then it can be conceived to exist in reality, which is greater. Therefore, if that than which nothing greater can be conceived exists in the understanding alone, the very being than which nothing greater can be conceived is one than which a greater can be conceived. But obviously, this is impossible. Hence, there is no doubt that there exists a being than which nothing greater can be conceived, and it exists both in the understanding and in reality. Simply put, God is that than which nothing greater can be. If God only exists in our thoughts, then he can be conceived to exist in reality, or something else can be greater that exists in reality. Therefore, God must exist independent of our thought. This being than which nothing greater can be conceived exists independent of our thought, but be able to be understood to a degree by us. This argument is very sophisticated, and even I don't know how to properly dissect it, so I'll leave links for further research. The third argument I like to call the intelligibility argument. Intelligibility. Okay, this argument states that the universe is intelligible, meaning it can be studied through reason and science. The fact that we can study the universe and discover its laws and patterns suggests that it was created by an intelligent being. For instance, a chair is intelligible. You can study its shapes, dimensions, and all. Why is this? It is so because the chair was made by an intelligent carpenter who measured, arranged, and designed it according to his intelligence. If there were no intelligent carpenter, say the chair was fashioned as a result of chance. Perhaps the wind blew some sticks onto a rock, or the sand so happened by nature to form a chair-like pile, then it would not be intelligible. It wouldn't have precise dimensions and all, but rather it would be very random and most likely not a good chair. Same applies to the intelligibility of the universe. The fact that we have universal laws, as precise as they are, means that there must be an intelligent cause of the universe. That intelligent cause, we say, is God. Note that this argument is also related to the teleological argument, which focuses more on the apparent design and purpose in the universe. These are just some of the many arguments for the existence of God, and I did not do them justice. There have been people who studied these particular arguments for years and years, so I'll leave links in the caption or comments for you to do research on your own. As always, stay curious and God bless. Because it is so because the chair was made by an intelligible carpenter. Start from here. And apologists who have spent years. There have been theologians and apologetics. Oh.